But I have to say now, dare I say it, forgive me, you're an artist, you're a great artist. I remember it and I love it, and I love you forever.
At 79, Diane Keaton broke decades of silence with a confession that left Hollywood stunned. It wasn't scandal, it wasn't betrayal, it was something far more devastating: silence. For over 20 years, she loved Al Pacino, the brooding genius behind Michael Corleone. But he never truly stayed. In a world obsessed with fairy tale endings, Diane chose honesty over illusion, solitude over sacrifice. And now, for the first time, she's telling the truth about the love that shaped and shattered her. This is Diane Keaton's emotional confession about the man she never stopped loving. She was raised in a conservative Catholic home in Los Angeles, watching her mother, once a pageant queen, fade into the background of domestic life. From a young age, Diane vowed never to become a woman who gave everything away. She wanted love, yes, but she wanted it without surrendering her identity. She didn't want to be saved. She wanted to be seen. Al Pacino grew up in a different world entirely, on the gritty streets of East Harlem and the Bronx, raised by a single mother after his parents' divorce. He knew instability. He knew hunger. Acting became his only constant, the thing that gave him a voice, but it also made him guarded. Al didn't learn how to love easily. He learned how to survive. Their paths crossed on the set of The Godfather in 1971. They were both unknowns at the time, just two emerging actors cast in a film that would change cinema forever. But behind the scenes, something else was unfolding. Diane fell for Al immediately. She later described him as strange, brilliant, infuriating, and absolutely magnetic. Pacino, as always, was harder to read. He didn't talk about his feelings, but there was something in the way he looked at her, something in the quiet energy between them that felt unspoken and undeniable. Their connection was more than physical, more than professional. It was a pull, deep, confusing, and impossible to name. They loved each other quietly, privately. No red carpets, no headlines. Just a slow-burning relationship that spanned over 2 decades, marked by breakups, reunions, and endless waiting. Diane waited. Al disappeared. She once said, "I kept asking things of him. I wanted more. I wanted him to love me the way I loved him." But he couldn't, or wouldn't. He always kept one foot out the door, afraid that settling down would strip him of the freedom he clung to with everything he had. Their love story reached its emotional peak and final breaking point during the filming of The Godfather Part 3 in the late 1980s. Diane hadn't planned to return, but when the call came, she said yes. She hoped the movie would offer some kind of resolution, both for the characters and for them. But when Diane Keaton returned to the set of The Godfather Part 3, something had shifted, something she couldn't quite name until it broke her. Al Pacino, the man who had once made her laugh between takes, the man she had loved so deeply and waited so long for, was no longer that man. He was cold, distant, polished, but painfully indifferent. There were no warm exchanges, no reminiscing, not even a casual glance. Just rehearsals, scenes, silence. In one of the final scenes, where their characters part ways, perhaps forever, Diane felt something rise inside her that wasn't scripted. It was real, a wave of emotion, not Kay saying goodbye to Michael, but Diane saying goodbye to Al. When the director yelled cut, she instinctively turned to him, hoping for a nod, a moment, any sign that he still saw her, not as a co-star, but as someone who had once mattered. But he didn't look at her. He walked right past, as if she were invisible. She returned to her trailer, sat down in front of the mirror, no makeup, no lights, and let the truth settle in. He had already left her, a long time ago. But Al wasn't the only one. Diane's heartbreak wasn't reserved for lovers. Woody Allen, her longtime creative partner, vanished in a different but equally painful way. When the world turned against him, Diane stood firm. She defended him, believing in his character, enduring public scrutiny in his name. And when she needed someone to stand beside her, he was silent. No call, no gratitude, no role in his final film. She found out about it the same way strangers did, in the press. "I don't regret standing by him," she later said. but I regret assuming it meant anything. And then came Goldie Hawn. Not a romantic partner, but a creative soulmate. Diane discovered a brilliant script, a love letter to women aging in Hollywood, and brought it to Goldie with enthusiasm. They dreamed it together, rewrote it side by side, until one day Diane's voice was quietly removed. The project moved forward without her. Another person she trusted, another vision taken from her hands. Again, silence. Again, she was left behind. But slowly, Diane's name began to vanish from the conversation. Goldie went forward with the project. New team, new title, and Diane was left behind. She didn't just take the spotlight, Diane said. She took the story, the voice. It was like watching someone take your child and change their name. And yet, despite all of this, despite the betrayals, the losses, the silences, Diane Keaton never crumbled. She never married. She never chased anyone again. In her 50s, Diane Keaton made a life-changing decision, not for publicity, not for validation, but for herself. She adopted 2 children, a daughter and a son, proving once again that her path didn't have to mirror anyone else's. She built her own version of family on her own terms. While the world speculated about her love life, Diane was quietly crafting a legacy that didn't depend on a man beside her. She became one of Hollywood's most respected actresses, earning an Academy Award, countless accolades, and becoming a style icon whose influence only grew stronger with age. She wore solitude like armor. She made independence look radiant. Her loneliness, if it existed at all, was dignified. She never played the victim. She lived her truth and turned it into power. Al Pacino, on the other hand, never married. Despite his fame and allure, he drifted from relationship to relationship, fathering children with different women, but never tying himself to anyone permanently. When asked why he never took that leap, his answer was chilling in its simplicity. I avoid doors that might lead to pain. And yet in 2017, something unexpected happened. At Diane Keaton's American Film Institute tribute, Pacino took the stage. Time seemed to stand still, and in front of a room full of peers, legends, and flashing cameras, he looked at Diane and said, "I love you forever." She smiled, gracious and composed, but she didn't cry. Maybe because she had cried all her tears decades earlier, in trailers, in therapy, in silence. They never reunited, never rekindled. They didn't even try, but the love never quite left either. It lingered in gestures, in interviews, and things left unsaid. Diane once said, "Pacino was the most beautiful face I've ever known." He called her the only woman who ever surprised me. They didn't hold on, but they never truly let go. Their story isn't a fairy tale. It's not wrapped in bows or happy endings. It's a portrait of what happens when 2 rare, brilliant, deeply wounded people try to love each other without losing themselves. She didn't need saving. He didn't want to be caught. She chose peace. He chose distance. And in the end, only one kept telling the story. Because some loves don't fade. They just live in the spaces in between. Because some people don't get a last chapter. Some people are the chapter. And Diane Keaton? She wasn't the one who walked away. She was the one who kept standing still, long after everyone else had gone. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more untold tales of love, loss, and resilience behind the spotlight. Thanks for watching.